Hi everyone, I'm Charity from Accessible Nutrition. I'm one of the co-authors of a cookbook called Easy Healthy Tasty, and tonight, thanks for joining me, we're going to cook a simple fruit crumble. But before we get started cooking, we're going to wash our hands. So if we come over now, we're going to start cooking some apple crumble. And you can actually find this recipe in the Easy Healthy Tasty cookbook. So if you think it's a good one, and if you'd like some more recipes that are pretty simple to make, head over to www.easyhealthytasty.com and you can get your own. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about, well, what fruit are we going to put in our crumble? I think I might have already spoiled it. Today we're going to be doing an apple crumble, but we are going to add some frozen blueberries as well. You can add whatever fruit you want though, so don't feel like you have to stick to that fruit that we're using in the recipe today or the fruit that's in the recipe in the cookbook. You can use whatever fruit you like. The thing to realise though is that today I'm going to use pineapples, and I've already opened them here just for ease. You can see inside there that there's not really any liquid, it's just the fruit. Whereas if you were to do something like buy a can of apricots, when you look at the ingredients list on this product, the apricots themselves are only about half of what's in there. The other half is juice, reconstituted fruit juice in this case. So when you're looking at quantities in recipes for crumbles and it talks about 400 grams of fruit or something like that, don't forget, if you're using something like this, even though this can is a 400 gram can, it's only 200 grams of fruit in there. So you might need to use 2 of them if your recipe calls for 400 grams. Today we're going to use some pineapples. The recipe in our cookbook says 400 grams, but I could only find, I think this is an 800 gram can. I'm sure it says it on there somewhere. There, up the top, it says 800 grams. So we're going to use that today because that's, again, what we could find. And really, it doesn't really matter if you make a bit more. You can save it for later, not a problem. So we're going to add our apples straight into, this is the dish I'm going to cook it in. And in the interest of saving a little bit of washing up, I'm just going to put it straight in there. The other thing I'm going to do is add roughly about a cup, but really I'm just going to eyeball it, of blueberries. And because these fruits will release some juices while they're cooking in the oven, I'm going to add a little bit of plain flour and mix that through as well. Just a couple of teaspoons. And these don't have to be measured teaspoons. So really just the kind of teaspoon you have sitting in your cutlery drawer is fine. Just a couple of teaspoons there, just to absorb that liquid. And we're going to mix it through, and it's going to look a bit gross in all honesty, but that doesn't matter because it's just going to cook anyway. You don't have to worry too much about how coated everything is. You don't have to worry too much if you've got a little lump or two of flour in there. It's all going to work out when it's baking in the oven. And this really is a super simple dessert, and the best bit about it is because it's mostly fruit, you could eat the leftovers for breakfast tomorrow morning, maybe with I don't know, a coffee or a hot chocolate if you're me, yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that. So we've got our fruit there ready to go. We're halfway through the recipe already. I'm just going to move that over a little bit, and then in this bowl here we're going to get together and put the crumble bits together. So for that we need half a cup of rolled oats or instant oats that we've got at the moment. And you know, I've lost my half cup measure, but that doesn't matter. I'm just going to use 2 quarter cup measures instead. So we'll put those in there. We're going to add a quarter of a cup of plain flour. And just like with the amounts that we were putting in for the to go with the fruit, really these amounts don't have to be perfect. You don't need to get your knife off and level off the cup or anything like that. And then we're going to add a little bit of sugar. Now we just need 1/8 of a cup of brown sugar. Now if you leave your brown sugar sitting in the cupboard for a while, it'll go really hard. I don't know if you can hear this, but it's pretty hard in there. Now I've already scraped some of it up, and you can just do that. So don't worry if it goes hard, it's still good. That's just what brown sugar does. So I only need 1/8 of a cup. This is a quarter cup measure, so I'm just going to do about half of one of these. maybe just a little bit more. Something like that, really. Couldn't be any easier. And we need 2 tablespoons of butter. Now, in the interest of doing this as a Facebook Live, I did already cut off a little bit of the butter and I just microwaved that in 10-second increments to get a melted butter. It's really not that hard. I just did it in a mug. Probably this is the mug that I'll use tomorrow morning for my hot chocolate. So we're going to pour that in as well. And then we're just going to stir it together. And what you want to do here, you do want to try and coat everything fairly evenly. Now I reckon that I could probably add a bit more oats to this without needing to add anything else extra. Because I think maybe I cut off slightly more butter than 2 tablespoons worth because it was looking rather moist still. Now my hands are nice and clean, so it's not a problem that I'm using my fingers there to clear off that spoon. And then it really is as simple as putting this over the top of your fruit mix fairly evenly. Now, like I said, the recipe in the book is actually for half this amount of fruit. So if you really wanted to, you probably could make double the amount of crumble to go over the top. That would be pretty delicious. But I think given that we're stuck inside a lot more than we normally are at the moment, we're probably all not doing quite as much physical activity as we normally would. And so probably having extra fruit and less crumble, as sad as that is to say, is probably a good idea. But this way you still get to have that really nice crunchy crumble on the top and you get heaps of fruit to go with it. Now this is going to serve heaps of people really because it's an 800 gram can of apple plus a cup or so of the berries, but that doesn't really matter because we'll probably have this, not probably, we definitely will be eating this for dessert here tonight in our house, and then we'll probably, I'll have some for breakfast tomorrow morning, almost certainly, and probably my girls will have, well, they might just copy their mum for breakfast tomorrow morning, or they might have some for morning tea or something like that. If you wanted to, you could make this in little individual portions if you've got ramekins, or even just using a mug. You can put some fruit in the bottom, sprinkle some crumble on the top, and put either the ramekin or the mug in the oven and bake it. Really, all we're doing when we're baking it is we want to warm the fruit through, and we want to make sure that the crumble that we've got on the top goes a nice golden brown. Now we'll post a photo later on tonight of the crumble when it's cooked, because it's probably not that much fun to just hang around watching the crumble cook for 30 minutes or so. I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees, I think it was, or 170. Yep, 180, just checked then. And so I'm just going to go over and put that in now. And unfortunately, I don't have an exact time for you for how long that's going to take in the oven, because it's going to depend a little bit about how much fruit you used, what kind of fruit you used, how much crumble you put on the top, whether you cooked it with a thick bit of crumble or just a little bit. There's too many variables to give you an exact time for that for today. But really, if you just keep your eyes on it, and your nose, because you'll probably almost certainly smell it as it's getting ready, but then go and have a look, and once it looks like you can see that the fruit is kind of bubbling away and the crumble on top has got a nice golden brown, not too brown because you don't want to burn it, but as long as it's a nice golden brown, then put on your oven gloves, pull it out, let it cool for a little bit, and then you can eat it on its own. You can serve it with some ice cream, you could serve it with some custard, whatever takes your fancy really. I should also mention that in that crumble topping, if you wanted to, you could add some coconut and things like that as well if you wanted to add some extra different flavours. And the other key tip I want to tell you as well is if you're looking to make an instant crumble recipe, if you get yourself the canned fruit or the pie fruit, put some of that in an oven safe dish or in the mug or the ramekin, whatever you want. If you want to sprinkle on top, or actually if you want to just microwave that for probably 30 seconds or so, just to warm it through, you could then sprinkle on top any of your favourite muesli or even something like sultana bran, and then you've got yourself an instant crumble as well. I hope that's been really helpful for you today. I know it's just a quick video, but sometimes quick and simple and easy is the best. So enjoy your dessert tonight, whether you choose to make apple crumble or whatever you do. Let us know if you try this recipe, how it goes, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.